Spring still flowing also there. So there were springs here. Maybe not 7 springs as the gospel says, but when the gospel says 7, would like to express plenty of water. Because the number 7 means the fulfillness, the perfection. The seventh day, the Lord, the God fulfilled his creation and rested. So it became the fulfillment. When the gospel says, like Mary the Magdalene was possessed by 7 demons, means the plenty, the perfection of the demon in her. When it says 7 graces, means lots of grace. 7 springs, plenty of water, plenty of green. This is the image of number 7. So became Tabgha here. As I mentioned to you, the water warms the lake here and the fish come to breed here. So was good place for fishing. Now the place where they used to fish exactly, the spot is not in this church, is at the primacy behind. We will see this afternoon the rock where they placed and tying their boats and where they were fishing. It is just 100 meters from here behind. So Jesus many times came here, many times spent his time with his disciples, many times brought people and taught them. The gospel mentions that one day he came and so many people dispersed on the mountains. He called them and many people came behind him. There were 5,000 men plus women and children. There was nothing to eat. It came late. They were away from Capernaum. Then Jesus asked them to find something. They gave him 2 fish and 5 loaves. Then he blessed and broke the bread and multiplied. All of them had eaten, and behind them were left 12 baskets of bread, which is the number of the tribes of Israel. Means that enough grace for everybody. But before Jesus asked them to offer him their faith, give them him, offer what they have. They had things not enough for everybody, but from these things, when we offer them to him, he gives us back the grace for everybody in abundance. Also here we see that these people who followed Jesus forgot about time and distance. They were far, it was late. That was, it seemed to them. But with him, never late, never away. Okay, here the place was found after they found Capernaum. Capernaum for many years was hidden underground since the 4th century, 5th century. An earthquake happened, it was completely destroyed and left behind. One of the buildings was of white stones at Capernaum. So for many years nobody could reach the place because the lake was high, the water was reaching up, the reeds were covering everywhere and the malaria was overspread in the area. At the end of the 19th century, an archaeologist was walking through the lake here. He noticed white stone building near the lake, and he thought it was basilica, was a church. Then they discovered it was not a church, it was the synagogue of Capernaum. So they found Capernaum. The Franciscans bought the place immediately. They were looking for Capernaum. And when they heard that the Turks were ruling here, nobody was interested of this place except them. So they bought the land, they started the excavations, and they found Capernaum. When they found Capernaum, they noticed the springs here, and they said it could be the springs mentioned in the gospel. In fact, they started the excavations here, and they found 2 churches, 2 Byzantine churches. One is where the primacy, and one is here in this place. So they started the excavations, and they found that the Christians here came and kept this place since the 1st century. The Judeo-Christians started to come and pray. You know who are the Judeo-Christians? The first followers of Jesus. Those who were Jews and turned to him became Christians. We call them the Judeo-Christians. They were his followers, so they had seen all the places related to his life. They shared their life with him. So when Jesus left them and they became the church, they received the Holy Spirit. So they started to get in the places related to the life of Jesus and take them as places of prayers, houses of prayers. They called them Domus Ecclesias. And they had to hide themselves. They couldn't appear. So many of the places that are related to Jesus' life are caves. Like Bethlehem is a cave, the tomb is a cave, the Gethsemane is a cave. The caves were also good places to hide themselves. So they took all these places and turned them houses of prayers. Today, when we discuss the authenticity of the holy places, we go to find like signs of traces or carvings of the Judeo-Christians in the place. When we find them, means that the place could be more authentic than others. Here, the Judeo-Christians started keeping the place since the 1st century. Then they found a church from the 4th century, small like house built by them. Then the Byzantines built a church in the 5th century and other one in the 7th century. So different churches were built in the place. But what they found is from the 7th century. They found the original floor, the mosaic. It is very beautiful floor from the 7th century, from the Byzantine times. And seems that those who built the church in those days were Egyptians, because the mosaic is typical Egyptian mosaic, reproducing the plants and the animals that were living at the Nile. Also, they designed like a tower was at the Nile to measure the level of the river. They called it the Nilometer, and they designed it on the floor. So for sure they were Egyptians. Their mosaics were very beautiful, having colors and images of the daily life around the Nile. But something important or special, they found a small rock in the middle of the mosaic, surrounded by mosaic, was left for purpose. And they found near it this design of the basket and the two fish, showing this rock as the place where Jesus placed the loaves and fish, where he multiplied. Seems also that the rock itself was used as an altar of the Byzantine church. This is why they designed 4 loaves in the basket, not 5, because the 5th one was the Eucharist placed on the rock itself. So now when we get in the church here, where is the altar now? Under the altar you see this rock still there, and this all designed from the 7th century, showing the place as the place of the multiplication, the spot where Jesus placed them and multiplied them. Here we see the like the shape of the old church. Here we see the Byzantine church. That is the altar where you see here, which is today the altar of this new church with the atrium. Here. The new church was built in 1982. Okay. Now we could go in the church, but in the church here, the sisters don't like any explanation in the church. So we could go silent in the church, we could see, pray, have our time as you like. until 12:15. So we have 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Please enjoy. You could see the spring still here. Some fish there are also. Hi, sis.